Now that we build a usable data set in Excel, we are going to do something similar in RStudio using the Tidy Census package in R. Feel free to follow along by opening RStudio and the .r file for Module 3 that we saved earlier. Remember, you do not need to have any experience in R or any programming language to follow along with this section. By the end of this section, you will be able to use the R package Tidy Census to load a dataset from the API and save it as an object in your R session. In this section, you will learn how to use R to install and load packages you will need for this course, install your API key into RStudio, view all possible variables from an ACS dataset and find a variable of interest, and run API queries and view the data for different levels of geography. This is what RStudio will look like as soon as you open it for the first time. There are a lot of parts to RStudio, but don't let the look of it overwhelm you. If you want to learn all there is to learn about RStudio, there are plenty of great free online resources for that. But for today, all we'll need to worry about is the parts of RStudio necessary to do our queries. Something to mention is that throughout these modules, it might seem like I'm using the words RStudio and R interchangeably at times, but they are different things. RStudio is the software, and R is the program it runs, and you can absolutely use R without RStudio. But RStudio has a lot of nice features that can help us to do the work we are doing in this course. If it helps, you can just think of R as the brain behind RStudio, so it kind of makes sense that it seems like I'm using them interchangeably. Again, we don't need to worry about the differences too much in this course. So, let's take a quick look at RStudio. On the left here, we have the console, which is where RStudio will process the script that you put in. The output here is sometimes helpful in identifying errors if they occur. For our purposes in this course, we will not be using this console. Moving over to the top right section, the environment is where you can see saved values and data sets. It is helpful because you can view all that you have stored, see what you have named your data, and you can also open data sets from this window. Right now it is empty. Underneath the environment there is a section with several tabs. All we'll really use in this course is the plot section. We will use this area in Module 4 when we start visualizing our data. There's one section that doesn't appear on the screen yet, and this section is the one that we will be working with the most. This is the section that shows the script included with your course files, and it is the section that you will be working from to run your queries in this course. We can't see it right now because we haven't opened the file, so let's go ahead and do that right now and get started. So we've opened this file, which is just called API_course.r, and it has everything you'll need for all of your RStudio work in this course. And now we have this fourth window in the top left. You'll immediately notice a lot of green text. The green text is instructions for using the script, and that means that even without watching this video, you would be able to open this script and read all of the instructions and be able to work with the file. The parts of the text that are green are all comments. Comments tell you about the code, but are not part of the code itself. Comments can be instructions or labels that are made by typing a hashtag or # at the beginning of a line. The text that is not in green is the actual code you will use to work with your data. The instructions in the comments of the script will tell you what the lines of code do once you run them. There are many ways to run a line of code, but today we will select the code we want to run and hit Control and Enter for Windows or Control and Return for Mac. So go ahead and do this right now with this install packages function. Install packages is a function which will install the R packages we will be using today. It's very easy to use since you just type out install.packages and then you put the name of the package you want in quotation marks inside parentheses. Pretty much every line of code we run today is going to be a function. We've already worked with some functions in Module 2, the group function and the get function. Hopefully, you're starting to learn that a function is a command that tells the program what you want. All of the functions we'll be working with in RStudio have a descriptive name, such as install packages, that tell you what the function does, and then you enter your commands in the parentheses. Now, back to installing packages. R packages are sets of tools that you can add to RStudio so that you can do different things. Some packages help you do more advanced statistics, some packages help you analyze text, and some packages help you make different kinds of visualizations. One of the packages we are installing, Census, is a package specifically designed to work with the Census Data API in R. It's pretty cool what kinds of very specific things people come up with. In case you're curious, we're also installing this other package, Tidyverse. Tidyverse is a very famous R package that was created as a way to more easily work with data. We will mostly be working with Census functions today. If at any point you want more information on how to use these functions, please visit the official Census documentation page. The link is included in the course materials. Census uses a lot of these Tidyverse tools, so that's why we're installing both. You can see the code processing down here in the console. Again, we don't have to worry about this today. Now we've installed these packages, and once you've installed them, you don't have to install them again. They are there until you remove R from your computer or get a new computer. So the next time you open this script, there is no need to run this particular line of code. Now, what we do have to do each time we open R is use this library function. Remember, we said that R packages are sets of tools. So you've installed all these sets of tools, and you can think of these sets of tools as books in a library. When you're doing a project, you might need to reference certain books. So you go into your library and select certain books that are relevant to your project. And that's all you're really doing here with your library function. Each time you open R, you are using the library function to tell the program, these are the sets of tools I'm using today. And like you do with installing packages, you simply do this by typing library and then putting the package name in quotation marks inside parentheses. So now R knows that we are working with these packages today. Now we've reached the section where you can install your API key, which you learned about in Module 2. Once you install your API key, R will remember your key and will use it while you are running all of these queries. An API key is required for working with Census, so if you still need an API key, you can visit census.gov/developers. And now, you guessed it, census_API_key is a function. So you simply replace the text API key in quotation marks with your actual API key. I've already installed mine, so I'm not going to do this now, but if I wanted to, I would just highlight and hit Control Enter, as I've done with every other section so far. So here is where we are going to start with our data. Remember that the first step when we were working with the API in Google Chrome was to search for our variables. Census makes this very easy for us. We will use the function loadVariables to view all of the possible variables we can use from the dataset of interest. So in this module, we've worked with some very easy functions like install packages, library, and API key because we only had to tell it to do one thing, such as the package we want or our API key. Now we are going to do some more complicated functions, but don't worry. You already told the API that you wanted all these things in Module 2. The only difference is that now you are putting them inside parentheses. So we are going to use this load variables function. And this is like in Module 2 when we searched for the variables page in the discovery tool. After we search for these variables using the load variables function, we need to save the result as an object so that we can view it. This is much like you would save a file. So essentially, we are saving this list of variables, and we are going to do that by putting a little caret and a dash to make an arrow. And that arrow is going to point to the name that we want to save it as. We will call this result ACS 18. Note that we are pulling the ACS 5-year estimates for the end year 2018, which means we are pulling the 2014 to 2018 ACS 5-year estimates. This is like in Module 2 when we added 2018 and ACS 5 into the API query in our browser. By default, this pulls all of the variables for detailed tables. If we wanted to pull all variables for another product, such as data profiles, we would change the dataset to ACS5/profile. We did this in our queries in Module 2 as well. So we'll run this and notice that when it saves, the new object, ACS18, shows up in our environment here on the right. So now that we've saved this as ACS18, we can view it. And we've got a very descriptive little function here called view. So we just say view, and then we tell it what we want to view, which is ACS18. And then we can see the results in a searchable table. So unlike Module 2, no more Control F. Now this is one of the reasons I mentioned earlier why we're using RStudio. Because if you run the view command using R in another software, it might not show up in a searchable table. That's just a nice feature of RStudio. So you can see we've opened the searchable table in a new tab called ACS18. But you can get back to the script by clicking on the script file, which is API_course.r. Now, since this is searchable, we can quickly find the variable we want by typing in median household income into the search box. To make it easier, I'm mostly following along with the same queries we made in Module 2 when we learned how to do this using the API in Google Chrome. So that way you can see this brings up our old friend B19013_001. But you'll notice it doesn't have the E or M identifier. And this is because Tidy Census gives us both automatically. So in this case, we don't have to worry about the identifier. As you'll see later, there are some exceptions. So we are going to click back over to our script, and now we are going to use the function called getACS. And this is going to be how we make our first query in R, which is going to be median household income for all counties in Maryland. And we can start with this because Tidy Census recognizes state abbreviations such as MD, so you don't have to find the state FIPS code. The getACS function is what you'll use in this course to make all these queries. Now remember, if we want to view this query and work with it later, we need to save it as something. So you can save it as anything you'd like, but I'm going to save it as MHI_MD, which stands for Median Household Income for Maryland. I've already put in all of the information. You'll recognize all of it from parts of the query we made in our browser in Module 2, except all of the information is split up instead of being smushed together in link form. We want the geography to be county so that we can get all the counties, and we've already figured out our variable, and we know that we don't need an identifier. So for now, let's just stick with one variable at a time. We want the state to be Maryland, and we just have MD there. And then the survey is the data set, which is ACS5 for ACS 5-year, and the year is the last year in the 5-year data set, which is 2018. And the cool thing here is that you can run the function that creates the data set, which is getACS, at the same time as the function that lets you view the data set, which is view. Just highlight both sections and click Control and Enter, and the data set will open as soon as it's finished running. So now we have median household income for all counties in Maryland. By viewing the data, we can get information that we need for our next step, which in this case is the FIPS code for the county, like we did in Module 2. FIPS codes in Tidy Census appear under this GeoID column. We're going to work with Anne Arundel County again, and you might remember from Module 2, the FIPS code for counties are 3 digits, and this one was 003. The GeoID variable includes both the state and the county FIPS. State is first, and it's 2 digits, so we will just ignore the 24 for Maryland and get the 003 county FIPS code. Viewing the data as soon as we run it also lets us make sure that the data looks how we expected it to look. So we can tell if something's off, but everything looks good here. So let's go back to the script. Now that we have the county FIPS code, we can add a county selection under state and add that FIPS code in. So that frees us up to request tract in the geography section. And this pulls all median income for all census tracts within Anne Arundel County. So we'll save these results as MHI_AACMD for the county, and then we will run all of this code and view the results once we put in the view function. And again, looks pretty good. Now, remember when we wanted a full table in Module 2 and used the group function? We can do this in R by replacing the variables command with the table command. We'll pull the same table we pulled earlier, which was B19001, which shows the full distribution of incomes. I'll just leave it as census tracts in a county for now. We'll give the result a name, run the code, and view it. And there we have it. In this case, you'll want to pay attention to the variables column. In the past few examples, all the variables were the same since we were only running one variable. Now we have several different variables, and hopefully you'll recognize these as all being different lines in a table. Obviously, these coded variable names are not as useful as labels such as income less than 10,000. Once you're a little more comfortable with R, you can quickly name all of these variables so that they make a little more sense. But we're not going to get too much into this course. But we're going to have a little bit of practice naming variables in Module 4, where we begin to work with the data we've queried. Now we'll take a quick look at places since we did that in Module 2. You can find all of the different geographies in Tidy Census on the official Tidy Census documentation site. Again, the link to this is included in the course materials. So we'll just add place in the geography section, and we'll keep it in Maryland to view all places in Maryland. We're going to go back to the median household income variable, which is B19013. Since this table only features one variable, you can leave out the underscore 001 and leave the table command if you'd like. We'll give this a name, run it, and view it. And here we have median household income for all places in Maryland. So now we've learned how to do these queries in R and RStudio. In Module 4, we'll take our nice data that we've gathered in Excel and R, and we'll start to work with it a bit. Before we go, I'd like to show you one thing I've left out through all this. Remember that all these queries we've run show up under the names we've given them in the environment section. At any time, you can go back and view any of them by simply clicking on them. You can do this without using the view function, meaning you've never had to use the view function if you don't want to. You can simply run your query and click on the result over there. I personally like the view function because you can run the data and have it open for you in one simple command, but it's entirely up to you.